Hello and welcome to the 𝗲𝗵𝗶𝘀 podcast. I'm your host, Kari Raquel, and today I'm joined by yoga teacher, earth witch, adventure-seeking digital nomad, dog mom, community builder, adventure seeker, writer, and of course, the local mystic, 𝗲𝗍𝗪. If you enjoy this episode, please remember to go give it a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and share it out with your networks. Okay, let's jump into it. Hello, 𝗲𝗍𝗪. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so grateful to have you, and it's been such a joy connecting with you online. We met via Instagram, and you're one of just a small group of magic makers that I just really look up to and have so much admiration for. And I'm so giddy that you said, yes, you want to be on the podcast.
Oh, that's so sweet. The feeling is absolutely mutual. I so admire everything you do.
Aw, thank you. Well, as you know, this podcast does have a monthly segment called The Transits in Tarot, and I'm an astrologer, so I always love to hear my guests' sun, moon, and rising sign, and would like to invite you to share those with me again and with our listeners for the first time.
Of course. Yeah, I'm 𝗲𝗪𝗪. I'm Scorpio sun, Aquarius moon, and Leo rising.
Such a beautiful mix of elements. I love that water, sun, air, moon, and that fiery rising. I see all of it for sure. And I have a little archetype sentence that I put together for you that I would like to surprise you with now and also surprise all of our listeners with. Are you ready to hear it?
I've been ready. I've been waiting for this.
Okay, awesome. So you are the alchemist, which is your Scorpio sun, with the soul of the liberator, which is that Aquarius moon you've got going on, who appears to the world as the joyful creator, which is your Leo rising. What do you think of that?
Oh my gosh. I need that like on a poster, beautifully framed in like calligraphy or something in my living room. That sounds so lovely.
Well, it's all you and your magic, and you're so lovely, and it wouldn't be this lovely if it wasn't you. So from there, just getting our bearings with our intro, now people have a little bit of a taste about who you are, but that's nothing compared to where we're going to go in this episode together. I'm so excited to dig into your magic and share some of that with our listeners today. We've got a few different topics we're going to explore, starting out with your current circumstances. So I know that you're traveling all around the country right now in a van with your partner, and I'm so curious, what's the story that inspired you to begin this chapter of becoming digital nomads together?
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like it's kind of always been the story. It's just one of those things that I figured that I would end up in a scenario of this sort in my life. I've always loved to travel and get out and see new places. And like we mentioned in the beginning, I have a few puppy dogs, so that's the easiest way to travel with them. Was to be able to take them. Because when you're out and you're traveling a lot and you have dogs and you hate to leave them at home, so the ideal is to be able to carry them with you in your back pocket in a sense. So the van seemed like the most accessible way to do that for us, and also the most accessible way for my partner and I to be together in that way, because I'm traveling teaching yoga and a lot of my work is online, and he's a traveling painter and he gets really inspired by the outdoors and just being outside. And so we kind of decided on this as the way to mesh the two together. And it really was a transformative year last year, I know, for everybody, 2020. And just, having that time to really dive deep into evaluating what we wanted to do with our lives and where we wanted these next few years to go after we had all this space when COVID hit and we were living in New Orleans. So it just kind of was one of those now or never things for us. And it was something we'd always talked about doing. And we've turned it into a reality. It's pretty crazy. It took us just over 5 months to build out the van. We put, all the bells and whistles, like kitchen, water, bed, all the I say bells and whistles, but those are like,
The basic bells and whistles.
basic human needs, light and water and food and things. But it's mobile, so I don't know. It's so magic to me that we have all of these things just wherever we need in the world. So it's been a crazy adventure for sure.
I had no idea that your partner was a painter. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He really is inspired by a lot of street art and also Japanese style art. So he kind of has a lot of different blends that he does, and yeah, it's so fun to watch him work, and it's nice because then he has all the extra paint supplies, So then at the end of the day, when I just kind of want to unwind, and I'm not a painter in any sort of professional route at all. I paint like daisies and sunflowers that hardly pass, so it's not anything impressive. But it's nice to have all the materials at my disposal to be able to let that creativity flow whenever I want.
That's awesome. And I feel like before I ask you a couple more questions about van life, I first off need to know the names of your dogs and what types of dogs they are to share with our listeners, because I am dog obsessed, but I don't own a dog. So I just live through other people who own dogs currently. So can you share with us about your puppies?
Oh, of course. That's like one of my favorite things to do. We have two dogs. They're both girls. They're the sweetest girls. One of them, her name is Izzy. She is 10 years old, and she is like a husky hybrid wolf mix. And then our other dog, her name is Sweet D, and she's 5 years old. She's a Doberman hound. We think she has a little bit of pit in her too, but she's just kind of a eclectic in that sense. But they're both the sweetest, and just to watch them interact with each other and other people is so funny because their personalities are totally different. So it's so fun.
Oh man, I love that so much. And then the last thing I have to create space for is a quick plug, because I don't know if our listeners are like me, but when it comes to these vans that people are building out, I get so curious and I'm like, what's it look like? Because I know that you guys are creating a lot of content around what it does look like and what it took for you to build it out. And if anybody's listening and they're curious, they want to see it for themselves, where can they go to get their hands on some of that content and check out your van?
Yeah, so most of our band stuff is on YouTube. We went that route, and that one was sort of more my partner Steven's creative project. So he films and edits all of our videos. He does a super great job. But we filmed out the entire build process of the van over 21 weeks, and then we've been doing a vlog every week that we've been on the road. And it's our YouTube channel is called 𝗲𝗵𝗶𝘀. They're both with a K, and so our van is named Karma then too. So yeah, it's kind of a sweet little parallel.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that. Well, now folks know where they can go get a visual if they're hearing this and they're curious, and they can also support your partner. But enough about him. He's great, but this is not about him. So I'm curious, with you being on the road, what are any of the changes or challenges that you've had that maybe affect your day to day since you began this journey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite a lot. And it's nice to talk about it because I don't ever want to give the illusion that van life is perfect, is this epitome that everyone needs to strive for, and it's very Instagrammable for sure. But you want to share kind of the struggles, but at the same time, you don't want to come off as like complaining, because I realize how fortunate we both are to be able to travel wherever, whenever we want. So I don't know, it is a fine balance, but having the space to talk about the challenges, I think is really important. So in that regard, the challenges kind of have been mostly, spatially. Obviously, there's four bodies that we have between me, him, and the dogs, and in such a small space. So, especially as someone who identifies as a spiritual practitioner, I like to kind of have a designated sacred space where I can go and do my yoga and my meditations and rituals kind of in the same space every day. And before, when I lived in New Orleans and I had a whole room dedicated to that, now I have a cupboard in a shelf where I have my spiritual supplies stocked, and then I have to, get them out and set them up and make sure the dogs don't knock them over and try to find a flat enough space, and then put them away when they're done. So it's doing the most basic things is 10 times harder in every regard, whether it is a full moon ritual or going to the bathroom or taking a shower, just everything is harder in a sense. But it goes that ties into what your priorities are, and what struggles you're willing to go through. I feel like, well, I've heard from a lot of people that they kind of wonder why on earth we would subject ourselves to this, because of the struggles with, just space and water and bathroom and everything like that. But when I look at it, those are all things that we can problem solve, and I don't mind just being more cognizant of things like that. I've actually really enjoyed being more aware of the materials and the resources that I'm using in the day-to-day life, and it makes you more connected with your usage in that sense. But two, I feel like there would be, you would have other struggles if you were just living a more, I don't know, I guess picturesque, a more sort of
Comfortable.
traditional, comfortable life.
Yeah.
You have other struggles. They're just totally different, so it's definitely been a process of getting used to the space for sure. And especially there being two of us, sometimes I like to be really quiet and slow in the morning, and Stephen likes to, get up and like go and move. And so beforehand, when we had a whole house, we could spread out and do that away from each other. Now we're within 6 feet of, of each other at all times. So, it's a work of balance for sure. And it's a work of compromise sometimes, but it's just, I think all of it is bringing you more closely connected to how you live your everyday life, and the impact that your actions have.
I love that. And it's like 6 feet closer to each other. It's like reverse social distancing.
Yeah, I know. Lucky that, he and I have been together since the start of COVID. So it's we don't have to worry about any of that, luckily.
You are the pod. The Karma Caravan is the pod.
Constant quarantine.
Forever. Oh, I love it. But quarantine on the go. It's
Yeah.
so good. So I know that you're super big on self-care, and I know that you also call it soulful self-care, which of course I love and we all love here on the Soulful of It podcast. So I'm curious, what is your personal definition of soulful self-care, and how would you say that you're taking care of yourself while you're on the road?
Yeah, that's definitely been a learning curve for me personally on the road. But I like to specify it as soulful self care because I think that the idea of self care in general has become a bit popularized and maybe a bit watered down in a sense. I'm all about,
Preach.
oh, thank you. I'm don't get me wrong. I'm all about face masks and jade rollers and bubble baths and things like that. They're super awesome to have. But I think that maybe the intention behind why we practice self-care is maybe being a bit muddled. It's maybe turned into just a different form of indulgence, I think, and even numbing in some
Mm.
ways. But I feel like for me, self-care practices that are really enriching are those that kind of elevate you to be a better person, or just feel better in your mind and your body. And sometimes those are the simplest practices, like just giving yourself 10 seconds of silence, of space when you first get into the car, or even just reflecting on your day before you go to bed. So it's really unsexy things sometimes that can be the most beneficial practices. But I really wanted to sort of put the emphasis back on that connection to the soul and to the spirit, and why we're even doing any of these practices in the first place. It's because we want to feel better in our bodies, feel better in our minds, and become a more heart-centered, more fully embodied person, not only for ourselves but for those that we love and those that we interact with every day. So that's why I kind of always try to make that distinction of self-care for a soulful purpose, or for a soul-centered purpose. And for the second part of your question, then my experience with it, personally has been all about just trying to find that designated time and space for myself, and also being flexible. I feel like, I don't know, you might be able to tell me a bit more about this in particular, but I feel like there's something, especially with my Scorpio sun, that makes me so prone to perfection and things going exactly the way that I want them to go. And I am trying to learn to, loosen things up around that a little bit, just more kind of leaning into the flow of things, being able to maintain my personal, I don't know, zen, for lack of a better word, my sort of homeostasis,
Mm.
despite what might be going on in my external circumstances. If I don't always get the chance to wake up slowly and journal in the morning because, say, we have to move the van, or because we're parked somewhere, where we're not allowed to be technically. So I have to kind of be more fluid around things like that. And then also sharing the space with my partner and my dogs, and kind of getting to release that attachment a little bit. So my self-care practice right now is looking like a lot of detachment and a lot of looking inwards towards myself to look at the things that I feel the most, I guess, bogged down by, and seeing how I can let go of things like that and just step more into my innate nature, which I believe to be innately gracious and divine and loving. So trying to just, I don't know, kind of step more into that. Obviously, that doesn't happen overnight, but I'm trying.
Well, you're doing a great job. And to chime in on what you were bringing up about feeling like your Scorpio sun sign sometimes just wants to have like a pulse on the control of like what's going on. And instead of just going with the flow and embracing and seeking that adaptability is so beautiful for a Scorpio, of course, because Scorpio is a fixed sign. And actually, something I hadn't put together or really thought about until you were just talking is that you're really fixed because Scorpio is a fixed sign, Aquarius is a fixed sign, and so is Leo. Actually, I'm a great person for you because I'm triple mutable. So I'm 3 of 4, you're 3 of 4 signs that are mutable because I have Sagittarius sun, which is mutable, Gemini rising mutable, Pisces moon mutable. So we're actually a great balance just because of that. But you're also, I feel like you are the world card in tarot because the world card features the 4 fixed signs in the zodiac.
Mm.
So I don't know if you ever play with tarot in that way, but I would recommend you to hang out with that card because I just feel like you'd have a natural connection to it. And like endings as beginnings is the biggest piece of takeaway that I always get from the world personally, is like ending the major arcana with this beautiful like naked woman, right? She's just authentically herself and she's fearless and she's, not afraid of the ending because she sees the beginning in it. And I see that in you. And I just think that's so awesome.
Oh, thank you. That's such a lovely insight. I was wondering that, because the place where I'm staying right now, they had a house copy of that, the only astrology book you'll ever need, and I've never dove into it before. But I was flipping through, and I was, going through all of my signs personally, and I've just came to that realization too the other night. It's like, oh my god, I am so fixed. Like, no wonder, no wonder I'm such a type A. Like, look at all of this just stable energy that I have.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, being a stabilizer. And also look at you going out and creating an opportunity for yourself that will, and already has, made you a more adaptable person just by the nature of you traveling like this and living in this such a flexible way. It's really beautiful. And I think you have to be so solid in who you are as an individual to be able to uproot yourself in that way when you have this amount of fixed sign influencing you. Like, to me, that's remarkable.
Aw, thank you. You're making me blush.
You can always count on me to talk good shit about you. So, from there, I would love to step into another topic that I know you've got a wealth of knowledge on. So, we won't even probably dig anywhere near as deep as we could go into this topic because I just know you as somebody that I really look to as a leader in this arena, and that is yoga. So, I'm curious, can you share with us how long have you been teaching yoga and what was your introduction into getting into yoga?
Yeah, absolutely. I love I love talking about just the yoga practice and my experience with it too, because I think it's such a beautiful practice and offering that we have. I've been teaching yoga for just over 3 years, I believe now. I feel like, I don't know, all of 2020 was like half a year, but also 5 years in the same time. I don't know. Time is slowly
Relatable.
slipping. But I've been teaching for, I believe, just over 3 years, and I've been, I guess, dabbling, I'll say, ever since I was really young. I remember my mom had just old yoga journal VHS tapes. I don't know if anyone's familiar. It's the very stereotypical like Zen yoga teacher voice, and it shows really able-bodied people in like brightly colored leotards doing wild splits and headstands, but then just this very calm, monotone narrated voice over the top telling you to breathe. And I thought that they were the funnest things ever, and me and my best friend would put them on and just somersault around the front room, just trying to attempt what these people were doing, having no idea, what it was, but we thought it was fun. But I do think that from a little bit of that still permeates you, because you still are doing a practice of connecting to your body and just staying focused on something for a while. So I mean, I was enamored with it for some reason. Obviously, it didn't take the really rooted approach in me until maybe I got to high school and college, when I started taking classes regularly. But the kind of hallmark, I guess, story that really illustrates how my yoga practice changed me was right towards the end of my college years. I had sort of just gotten out of kind of a pretty rough breakup for myself. I had gotten to the point where I had invested so much of myself into someone else that when they left, I kind of was left feeling stranded and with nothing, and like I didn't know who I was anymore, because I had given so much of my life to someone else who all of a sudden gives it back to you. And so I was just kind of in a really isolated place within myself. So I had much more spare time then too, and I had been kind of going casually to yoga classes. So I thought, well, I have all this time now. Let's just do it all day, every day, basically. So I went to my studio basically every night, because I always left feeling so much better, even if it was just really subtle. I just always left feeling more calm, a bit more just okay. And then that started to grow the more and more I practiced. It was a really wonderful, just emotional release, and just sort of like this life raft that brought me back to myself. And all of a sudden, I believed again that I was okay just as I was, that I was whole just as I was, and that I could create my own happiness, that I didn't have to wait for someone else to give that to me. And that was a lesson that was really powerful for me. And then I wanted nothing else but to be around that and to share that practice. So after then, I moved to New Orleans, and that's where I got my teacher training done. I got to connect with some of the most amazing teachers in that space, and I learned so much from them. And I started teaching. I started doing some retreats in Costa Rica and in New Mexico, in these really beautiful, really soul-centered places. And just the more that I practiced, the more that I connected with other women, who were on this similar path, looking for just to be the most embodied versions of themselves. Then I don't know, at some point I decided that this was what I wanted my life to be. And I'm so grateful still for the practice every day. And even though now it looks a lot different for me than when it did, back when I was still in college, it's still, I would say, I don't know, it's still the universal thread that kind of is underneath everything that I do. So I don't know. I think I sold the yoga practice pretty well there.
It sounds like something that is so anchoring when you're going through change and you're traveling. It's like, well, one thing that can stay consistent, and of course, with all that fixed energy that you also do have control over, is that you can show up for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what yoga is for me, is showing up for me. And that's why I think I've had blockages to doing yoga and practicing yoga and being steady in it, because I'm still learning the lesson that it sounds like you learned through yoga, which is to not give so much of myself away to everybody else around me, which is really a great side effect in the sense, I mean, well, okay, maybe the side effect isn't great, but the root is great. It's like, I have so much to love to give and I want to love everybody, but what am I leaving for myself? And yoga is a practice that radically requires you to show up for yourself. And damn, is that hard for some of us. But it
Yeah.
feels so good when you do it, right?
It does, absolutely. And like you show up for yourself and it gives you that chance to, refill your energetic cup in a sense. Cause I feel like so many of us, like you identified with too, when we're giving and we just want other people to be happy. Sometimes, yeah, we do forget to refill that well for ourselves too. So yeah, it really brings you back to that space inside of you. And I always, like you said, I think comforting was a really great word. I always felt so comforted by my practice, and I was showing up there for myself and I felt more connected to myself, but then I felt connected to something bigger, to something deeper, to something sort of all permeating and just really loving, and not to get religious or all, but I've always resonated with spirituality, and I've always felt this really strong pull towards whatever this universal loving energy was. And so my yoga practice always really connects me more with that energy, and it just, yeah, it makes me feel very comforted.
That is so beautiful. And I know that that's not everybody's experience with yoga. Unfortunately, I think that kind of like what we were saying about self-care, how it's been more commercialized, and yoga, I think too, has had a lot of that going on, and it's kind of created this bubble from my perspective. Maybe it's only me seeing this, but I definitely see people who are seeing yoga and telling themselves, yeah, but yoga isn't for people like me. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what you might say to somebody who has that perspective for any reason that it could be. I mean, some people are like, well, I only see this one type of body type doing yoga, and, I don't have that body type. So yoga is not for me. Or men, for instance, a lot of men are like, well, I don't know. I don't go to yoga. It's for girls. And I'm like, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. Literally, if you have a body, great, you can do yoga. Like, that's my perspective, but I'm curious what you might say to, and those are just two potential examples of things that I've heard out in the ethers of reasons people think that yoga isn't for people like them. But yeah, what would you say to that somebody who has that thought in their head?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I know this is something that a lot of people are feeling, and I guess the first thing I would say is I understand. I see why you would feel that way nowadays, especially those of us who exist on social media and in the Instagram world. That is what gets portrayed a lot, and it is really unfortunate. But so first, I would say I understand, and I'm really sorry that you've been made out to feel that way. It is funny. I do like to bring up about the whole guys thing, because guys do think like, oh, I can't do yoga because yoga is like a chick thing, or like my partner, in the sense, he's done a lot of yoga because obviously, I'm a teacher and I was sort of practicing on him when we started. But he brought up too something that I hadn't really thought of, is that I think some men too feel awkward going to classes because they are so filled with women, and obviously we're putting our bodies in somewhat compromising positions, so then they innately feel like creepy, or they're going to be perceived as creepy, so they don't want to go. So I thought that, I don't know, that was a unique reason, not to want to
Mm.
practice, that I hadn't heard before. So I was like, well, it's like, we don't think you're creepy, we're glad you're there. If you're not creepy, we're probably not going to think you're creepy. But the thing that I wanted to bring up about the men is it's ironic because, historically, traditionally, if we look at the roots of yoga in India and Hinduism, it was originally, yoga was just for men. Women weren't allowed to practice yoga because it was seen as sort of like a divine practice. It was almost like a religious sort of passage, like a rite only, like super enlightened spiritual people were allowed to practice yoga, which were traditionally seen as esteemed men. So I don't know, it's just kind of ironic, and some food for thought, guys. If you're thinking that you're not allowed to do yoga, it's like, well, originally it's meant, it was built for you, but it is built for everybody, 100%.
It reminds me of the story of Adam and Eve and like yoga's the forbidden fruit. It's like, you know what? Eve, we would have included you in this if you hadn't eaten that damn apple, but you ate the
Right.
apple. And so, you know what? No yoga for you.
Right. Yeah. No, women. Yeah, women have been the spiritual fuck up since the dawn of time, apparently. But I'm glad that the narrative is changing. But yes, if anything, despite all of that tradition, gender, everything else aside, yoga is for everybody. And I know it's really hard to just hear someone say that. And obviously, if you still don't feel comfortable in your body, then that's something that's going to be really challenging to get over. And that's something that's going to be sort of personal for you to get over, and really looking at your relationship with your body and yourself. But if I could give any sort of I guess, insight or advice to it, I would let you know that yoga doesn't look one way. Yoga is not strictly moving your body into crazy positions on a yoga mat in a yoga studio. You don't have to go to a studio. You could practice at home. You can find videos online if you feel more comfortable doing it in a space where no one can see you. If you don't feel very inclined to do very active yoga practices, that's okay. There are practices that are really slow and really restorative and that focus more on mental relaxation rather than physical stimulation. If you don't even want to do any physical asanas or postures, then meditation is considered yoga. If we look at the actual full body of what a yoga practice is, there are 8 different limbs that we practice, from meditation to yoga asana to withdrawal of the senses. It gets very sort of granular and a bit ethereal the more that you get into it. But just the baseline is that yoga looks different for everybody, and that yoga can be whatever you need it to be. I know, because I know that's such a hard thing that a lot of people struggle with, and I wish that I could just be able to, hug you and take and alleviate that sort of hindrance that you have around the practice. But also, I don't want to ever assume that the way that I've chosen is the right way for everybody. If you tried it and you gave it a good, honest, go for it, and you really don't like it, then that's also okay. It's not the be all solution for everybody. But if you do ever feel a bit overwhelmed, or you want some time to just relax and come back to yourself, or maybe you're looking for some sort of deeper meaning, in anything, then I would suggest the yoga practice. But your medicine might look completely different than mine. And I think that's the beauty of spirituality and the beauty of the world, is that we just kind of find what works for us.
Yeah, that's so well put, and just love that. Love hearing that. And I feel like maybe younger versions of me are feeling healed just by hearing your words and insight on that, from the times that I myself have felt that way and have been that person who's like, well, yoga is great, but, not for people like me. And deconstructing that is hard, and it takes a lot of courage, and then showing up anyways, even if I'm not in a studio and it's still a pandemic or whatever is going on and I'm just at home. And just the act of rolling out my mat is radical for me, because it's not a part of my rituals anymore. I had a chapter where I was practicing yoga way more, and I haven't been doing it as much lately, but it's one of those things that I know it's not going anywhere, and it's still there to hold me if I want to be held. And if I don't want to be held and I'd rather order a pizza instead and watch reality television, and that's my medicine for the night, then that's my medicine for the night. And I'm going to do that. But we wake up new versions of ourselves every day. So why not consider it? And maybe somebody needed to hear this and be reminded, just like me, like, hey, yoga is for you if you want it. And if you don't want it, that's also cool.
Yeah, I love that. Like you said, yeah, sometimes pizza and a movie is the way to go. And I don't think that we need to shame that about ourselves, or as long as you know the reason that you're doing it. Obviously, if you're choosing pizza and movies every night, maybe look if that's more of a numbing response in you rather than a way to just unwind, spend some time with your partner or your dogs. So just, I think as long as we are aware of why we choose to do the things that we do, and if we get to the real root or the intention of what we're doing, then yeah, I hesitate to say anything can be your medicine, because obviously there's some things I hope people don't choose as medicine, but you can take the path that feels the most true to your body.
So, speaking of yoga and kind of wrapping up this part of this episode before we pivot, I am curious, are there any main benefits that you've seen from your yoga practice that you'd like to share with us?
Oh my gosh, I'm a completely different person. I mean, I'm the same, but I feel wiser. I feel definitely more in tune to my body, both, physically and emotionally. I'm able to, I think, deal with stress and depression a lot easier now. When I was in middle and high school, I suffered pretty severely with depression issues, and since having a more regular spiritual practice, I really have been able to move through a lot of that. So I feel like I have that life raft. I just still really love that metaphor, that life raft that I can constantly return to, and to know that I am whole exactly as I am, and that everything that I ever search for, whether it's in a boyfriend or a bottle of wine or a night out or something, all of that can always be found somewhere within myself. And I feel empowered by that. I feel alleviated by that. And I feel more connected to spirit and myself, I think, than if I hadn't found the practice.
Ooh, I love all of those answers. And it made me think about all the people that I know who are actively practicing yoga or are yoga teachers like yourself. You don't meet someone who's been practicing that who is just surrounded by chaos. You just don't. Those people are just calm, even if they are in chaos. Chaos does not follow them. They're not magnets for
Mm.
chaos. And I think so many of us have lived in chaos and then go create chaos. And I say that as a human bulldozer at times myself and being aware of it too, where I'm like, damn, I could use a little bit more peace. And with everything that's been going on in the last year plus, peace is a
Mhm.
practice, just like yoga is a practice, and they go hand in hand. And just talking to you, I feel calm.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I definitely have like a yoga teacher voice sometimes. If I listen to myself on playback, I'm reminded of those yoga journal VHS tapes. I'm like, wow, Sierra, you sound very yoga then, almost like that little bit like you might be stoned, you might be half in meditation, like you're not sure like where that line is. Like the voice just becomes very sort of monotone in a way. But I have had a lot of people tell me that, yeah, my voice is calming in that way. So I'm glad to do that.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So we could go talk about yoga all day because I know you've just got a crazy wealth of knowledge in that arena, but I would love to ask you a few questions about your witch practice. And starting off with that you call yourself an earth witch. So I'm curious, what is your relationship to the term witch? And do you have any specific definition
Mm.
for earth witch or how you kind of embody that?
Yeah, I know. It's funny now as this is what my life has become, and I go on podcasts now. It's like, yeah, I'm the yoga witch who lives in a van. It's like this is me now. Probably the oddest ball that you'll have on. Well, I don't know. There are a lot of oddballs out there now, which I'm very grateful for. But I realize I'm very weird, and I'm about it. But yes, I.
Me too.
Oh,
I'm
good.
about it.
Good, good. But yes, I do identify personally as a witch or a pagan. Sometimes I'll kind of use the words interchangeably. And yeah, the way that I define the word is I don't know. I don't really like to give a definition to it because I feel like now there has been this resurgence of modern paganism and these practices that are more earth based. And as with anything that becomes, I don't know, glorified or more modernly practiced, then I feel like people like to pigeonhole it and people like to box it in and people like to exclude others and say, oh, well, this is a witch and this is not. And one of the things that really drew me
Mm.
to this practice was the sense of openness about it, was that they're kind of, it is like a make your own rules type of thing. So I feel like so many people, if I were to give a definition of a witch, then I feel like I would think that, I don't know, at least 85% of the people that I know are probably witches, even if they don't personally identify with that. But to me, it is just a form of spirituality that is centered around the energies of nature and the energies of the universe. And that's why, if you want to more closely define it, that's where, the earth part comes in, being an earth witch. It sort of, witch is like an umbrella term. And then the more that you dive into this community, then there are sort of these subgenres, if you will. Now there's like glamour witches, there are kitchen witches. There's lots of different ways that people practice their own magic. So to me, it is with reverence of the earth, and most specifically, most tangibly, that results in the phases of the moon and also the changes of the seasons. So between those two energetic cycles, that is where I draw a lot of my inspiration in for my wellness practices, for my yoga practices, for my journaling practices, basically just the way that I study personal development and spiritual evolution is completely reliant on these natural phases of the earth. So it gets into a bit of folklore too then, and a lot of times in a lot of witches and pagans will work with these dual energies of the universe, like a god and a goddess, which basically Mother Earth, and Father Sun, or there are different names and faces for everything. But really it was just that connection to the earth that was most poignant for me. But I think a lot of people are witches. To me, you're a witch if you just feel connected to any sense of magic in the universe, whether that is being a painter or an herbalist or someone who really loves cooking. If you're putting intention and love into anything that you do, then to me that's magic. And if people don't want to identify with that title as a witch, then that's also okay. But I just think there's a lot of fucking magic out there in the world, and that more people want to step into it, I think, than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah, or give ourselves permission to go after the things we want to do. I have a friend who calls it kitchen
Mm-hmm.
witching when she's in the kitchen. And she's not the only person to call it that, I know, but she's the first person I ever heard call it that. And I was like, oh my gosh, exactly what you were just saying. People who are really great cooks, I'm like, you a witch, because you're so skilled and talented, and scientists too. I'm like, you're putting this concoction together, and I mean, you're alchemizing things, right? That's the Scorpio sun in you, is like, you are the alchemist. You are a witch in this way. And the reclamation of this word that I've seen happening in the last few years as paganism has become modernized in our world has been really epic and cool, because it used to be something that, if someone called you a witch, they were degrading
Mm-hmm.
you or talking down to you, because, what did we do to the witches? We burned them, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, it has definitely been this big, reclamation. And I think it kind of came at the perfect time. Everyone was sort of claiming this title of nasty woman again, too. It's this idea that, well,
mm,
whatever you call us to put us down, we can use that to help boost ourselves up more. And then we're going to, okay, then take this title that you think degrades us, and we're just going to own the shit out of that.
yeah, it's like that quote that I'm sure a lot of people have seen. We are the daughters of the witches
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't burn.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it.
Love that one.
I love that. I love the Earth Witch vibe. And something I would love to ask you about is, how did you discover that you are a witch? Like, how did you come around to using the term for yourself and identifying with it?
Yeah, it was really honestly just like a declaration to myself, honestly. And see, this is where I think I might divert from some people who might believe that you're either innately a witch or you're not. I don't know. Like there's some sort of Sanderson sister bloodline that you have to get into. I don't know. I don't believe any of that. But it was more just like like a personal identification. I mean, I guess more concretely towards the end of college, I was really interested in herbalism and botany and things of that sort. So I was using essential oils and plant medicine and just sort of making all these little potions for my friends. And that was when I had just met my partner now, Steven, and he was kind of the first one to maybe introduce me to it. Just like, oh, you're like a little witch in here, just making all of your potions and doing moon shit. Like this is 100% who you are. And I was like, what? I just never the title never really occurred to me. But then looking back, my mom and my grandma, her mom, they've always been the most immaculate gardeners that I've ever seen. My grandma's backyard was like bigger than her house, and she always had these beautiful plants and was able to just take such good care of it. And my mom was and my other grandma, my dad's mom, they were both the kind of women that wanted to give you peppermint essential oil instead of Advil every time, because they were just super against any sort of man-made prescription drug. They were all natural. So I've always kind of been around that maternal woo energy, and so I just sort of carried that into what I was doing. So in that sense, I do think that the women in my life really shaped me to be a witch, or put me into the position where I could confidently identify as one. Again, I do think it's something that really, if you want to be, then you can claim it in yourself, and it's just all about how you connect to the practices, whatever your practices look like. And yeah, just owning that in yourself, and believing that you do have the ability to create magic in your life.
You were raised by garden witches and you grew up and you became an earth witch. I'm like, yes, this all makes sense to me. That's so lovely and just so wonderful. And it's great hearing your story of yourself and how you came to embody the term, because as much as language and labels can be hurtful, they can also be so empowering, and they can help us awaken to who we really are and start questioning things, which is a lot of what you've been saying in this whole entire interview. Is at the core of so much of what the work that you're doing, this soulful work out in the world, is your willingness to question things and ask why, and then be in that silent, awkward, quiet phase of being alone, which for you probably at this point isn't silent or awkward or anything. You've put aside the time to get to know yourself and to do the internal work to start seeing the fruits of your labor. And I just love hearing it, because you never know who's going to hear this episode and go, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to do for myself. I need to let myself own this. I am a painter, and I've just never come to terms with allowing myself to embody that. And I love painting, or I am a photographer. I love taking photos, or whatever it is. You can be the thing. You have every right to claim what's yours, and it is yours. And you, 𝗲𝗍, you just claim what's yours, and it's beautiful. And I love that about you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. I think maybe when you claim it, there's a fear that, you can never fuck up. If all of a sudden you've said, "Oh, I'm a painter, so I just have to paint perfectly from now on," and if there's a day that I don't do my painting thing, then I messed up. Or, even for me, when you say, I am a yoga teacher now, I am a yogi, I have been for a long time, but still there are those days when I get in that silence and it is still really scary, or I feel really sad, or I can't get my mind to shut up, or, it is still really difficult for me a lot of the time, So I think, yeah, allowing yourself to claim that label, but then also knowing that you don't have to be perfect, then it's okay. You're still gonna mess up, and it's still a process. You're allowed to be an imperfect witch, or an imperfect yogi, or an imperfect painter.
Yeah, you can slap the label on like a temporary tattoo and wash it off if it doesn't feel good that day. And if you don't like that, you don't like temporary tattoos, get a Sharpie out, draw it on, see how it feels. If you're really feeling committed, you go get that tattoo. But you know what? We got technology now. It's going to hurt like a bitch, but it'll come off if you really want to get rid of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, man.
I love that. It's like the power of words, the power of language. And there is just so much power in the words that we say. I had a guest on the podcast many, many episodes ago who said, words are powerful forms of magic. And that just never left me. I'm like, yes, we are casting spells every day with what we say to others, but even more importantly, what we're saying to ourselves. If your story is, well, yoga's not for me, people like me, and well, I can't be a witch because I'm actually really terrible at mixing, these herbs together, and I don't understand them. Start small, start where you are. You can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
I'm a hopeless romantic, a hopeless dreamer, so I'm here to cheer everybody on.
I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Magic is in your words every moment. I love that.
So, wrapping up some of this chat about earth witching, I would love if you'd share with us some of your favorite witchy holidays. And I know there's a lot of them, so don't feel like you got to list them all, but I feel like I'm constantly discovering new witchy holidays that I'm like, oh, wait, there's a word for this? Interesting, from people like you who are always educating me. And I love that. So, any witchy holidays that you really love to celebrate, and if you have any specific things that you like to do or rituals you like to participate in or lead to celebrate them, feel free to share those as well.
Yeah, so that's the thing too, and a lot of people, or at least know of, these festivals because they're so tied to astrology and the way that we live our lives. So a lot of them are just basically the equinoxes and the solstices. The equinoxes being the middle points between the solstices, and the solstices being, either the longest or the shortest relatively day of the year. So with that, I love the summer and the springtime festivals. Well, now that I don't live in New Orleans, when you're in New Orleans, the summer times are, I don't know, a little bit miserable. You can't really go outside and do much because it's so humid and it's 100 degrees. But the whole energy of these summer festivals is all about life and vibrancy, because Mother Earth is alive and blooming and fruitful all around you. So there's this sort of buzzing energy around the summertime, and the days are so much longer. You feel like you can do so much more, and you can just run around at nighttime in your shorts, just enjoy the summer nights, and it feels like there's so much more going on. So I love all of the summertime festivals. Summer solstice especially is always one of my favorites. And all the full moons too. Like I mentioned, there's, the lunar cycle, which is obviously much more frequent than the seasonal cycle. So I mean, we usually have about 12, sometimes 13 full moons a year. So those are always really powerful, energetic times as well. And now that I live mostly outside, I'm so much more connected to watching the phases of the moon. I can see how much lower or higher she rises in the sky over the day, and I know what time she's going to come up and how it lengthens. And that is one of the reasons why I was so smitten with this van life, is because I wanted to live that much closer to nature and to the earth, and just being outside more. So yeah, summer. Did I even answer your question? Summertime. Yeah, I love the summertime festivals.
That's an awesome answer. And it's surprising how many folks don't think about, I mean, they know about the solstices, but they don't really think about them and put some intention into them. And creating your own rituals around them, I think, is really beautiful and a great entry point into having some sort of ritual for like the summer solstice or the winter solstice, is doing exactly what you're saying. Like, how can I just have an eye on the sky and see how the moon is changing? And it's changing signs every 2 to 3 days as well. So the astrology is there that, like, the ocean, our inner ocean within us, is constantly being disrupted
Mm-hmm.
by changes and flows. And like one day you're feeling really fiery, like we're recording this right now. On this day, the moon happens to be in Sagittarius, and I'm feeling it. I got like this extra fire to me. And it's so interesting when you start paying attention what you'll pick up on. And I have a belief that the more we look up at the stars and the sky above us, the moon, the sun, the more we can look
Mm,
within, because we are stardust. That is us. We are the universe experiencing itself. That is not my quote, but that is a quote I definitely align with and live
mm.
by.
Yes, I love it. All of that. Yes.
So, just a couple questions I like to ask folks in every episode for wrapping up are, do you have any, and of course we've named some of them, so maybe some different ones, daily, weekly, or monthly routines that you love and would recommend others try out?
Yes. If I have one thing, if you want to take one thing away from me today, and it's not my practice, I really wish that it was. Well, I don't mind that it's not. It can be hers. I'm happy to have it anyway. Is this idea of morning pages? It comes from Julia Cameron, who's an author. She wrote The Artist's Way and The Vein of Gold, but basically morning pages. And I'm a writer and I'm a journaler at heart, so maybe this wouldn't be for everyone. But if you feel, I don't know, a really strong resistance to it, then I don't know, maybe lean into that and give it a try and see how you feel. But morning pages is just 3 pages of journaling, sort of right when you wake up, and there's no rhyme or reason or structure or anything to it. It's just basically like word vomiting, for lack of a better word, anything that you're thinking onto the page. So it, it's a really wonderful practice first thing in the morning, because it helps you clear your mind. It's very meditative without having to sit, in the traditional seated closed eyes meditation. I think you're still getting a lot of the same benefits, and I think having something to do might be a little bit more accessible for some people than just regular seated meditation. And you really just end up having a conversation with yourself, and which is really beautiful. You kind of get to access some deeper insights that maybe you weren't sure were there, and yeah, you can really work through a lot of powerful things. So that's been the daily routine that I've been able to integrate in, probably because I can do it from anywhere and I can still just be in my bed in my van and still be doing my morning pages. It doesn't take a whole lot of, it's not very taxing spatially. So that's been my favorite one so far. But really just, yeah, I love the act of writing and connecting to yourself every day.
So beautiful. I've had one other friend who's mentioned morning pages to me and just thought the whole concept and idea of it was really, really cool. I haven't tried it out, but hearing you bring it up again is like, okay, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I should try this out
Yeah, it
finally.
is really great. And I will say one thing, one struggle that I have with them sometimes, which was unexpected, is I'm a very proactive journaler, so I always give my students during the full moons and the holidays, we give journal prompts. So we're journaling about very specific, sort of sometimes metaphysical topics. But with this, you just kind of write whatever. And sometimes you don't know what to say to fill out 3 pages. So you just end up coming up with these random things. And I was kind of getting over this in my head to where like, oh, well, I'm not journaling about anything like productive or life shattering. So why the hell am I doing this? I feel silly just writing about, how I feel about what Steve said yesterday. So there is a little bit of a resistance to where you feel like you try to, I don't know, discredit your thoughts or your feelings in some way. So that's been something that I've noticed in myself, is that it's okay that I'm just writing nonsense. One time, I think when I first started them, I was just feeling really frustrated or had too much caffeine that morning or I don't know what, but I think I just wrote the word fuck for like 2 pages straight. And then I was like, okay, now I'm ready to write something actually.
I love that. I feel like that's such a release, though, still, just even writing out fuck over and over
Yeah, it
again.
really
It's
was.
awesome. Do you think that you've like remembered your dreams better? Because I would imagine if I woke up and the first thing I did was morning pages, that if I did remember my dreams, I might just write out what I
Mm.
dreamt and maybe it would become like a dream
I
journal
have done that a
almost.
few times, but I go through phases in my life a lot where I honestly can't remember my dreams at all, and this is one of them. There was a period, maybe 6 months ago or so, where I was being able to remember my dreams a little bit easier. But honestly, I hardly ever wake up with any memory of my dreams. It makes me sad a little bit, and I don't know what the difference is between the phases of my life where they come and when they go. But yeah, I'm not remembering any of mine right now.
I'm not great at remembering them ever, but the only shot that I have at remembering a dream is if I write it down immediately when I wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, that definitely that'd give you something to write about for sure.
So maybe if we have anybody listening who's like a really vivid dreamer, first off, I'm jealous. I think Sierra is too. Is
Yeah,
that
and
right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Also, maybe you don't love the idea of morning pages, but maybe you want to start like a dream journal and then it kind of becomes morning pages and who knows what can come of it. But I think that's awesome. Like it has the potential to be so many different ways of supporting you throughout your
Yeah,
day.
I honestly notice such a huge difference in it. And yeah, if you try it out, Carrie, let me know what you think of it.
I will. I will. I'm such a night owl. I might have to start with evening
It can be
pages.
that too. My partner for stands because he does them too. He stands firmly that they can be any time of the day, but I like to do mine specifically in the morning for like mental clarity and things like that. But I do also think that yeah, if you want to do it at a different time of the day, I'm sure it will also be beneficial.
Yes, love it so much. So, another question I always love to ask my guests is there an affirmation or a mantra that you are really enjoying right now? And what is it?
Oof. It's not that. It's not oof. Um, that's such a lovely question. And I remember when we talked before this that you said you were going to ask me this, and I was like, ooh, I should think of a really good one so I can have it ready then. And I did not think of one that was really earth shattering. Unfortunately, I wanted to give like a really good one because affirmations are so integral to yoga and magic and everything that I do. But I find sometimes mine are just the simplest ones.
Simple is good.
Simple is good. It permeates. So the one that I've been using most often nowadays is just that I am okay. It
Mm.
and it serves me most when I'm dealing with just the day-to-day sort of struggles or stressors of just being a human or living in a van or something like that. The things that sometimes make me the most anxious or the most stressed out. If I just take a moment and look at it and tell myself that I'm okay no matter what, then that is just really empowering and relieving in that way, that that it's okay if my coffee got spilled all over my journal because my dog jumped up on the couch or something. That can be really frustrating, but also like, I'm okay. It's like that didn't change anything
Mm.
about who I am or what's going on inside of me. It's a very unsexy affirmation.
But like, it's like self-care though. Does it need to be sexy?
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as it's effective and it works for you, I love that. I'm okay. It's simple, it's straight to the point. Anybody can remember. It's only 2 words, so it's easy, which is always good for any kind of practice. And it makes me think of when all the shit first hit the fan with COVID and everything was shutting down and it was just like, felt like time stopped. I had an awesome mentor in my life who, when I was talking with him about like mantras and stuff, and I was like, this is what's getting me through at the time. And it was something around peace that I was working with, which is seems to be a theme for me. I'm always seeking peace because I've had so much chaos in my world in my life so far. So peace is my medicine. But what he had shared with me, I was like, is there anything that's really resonating with you? And he said, yeah, my mantra right now is I'm okay with what
Hmm.
happens. And I was just like, wow, a way to like take yourself away from the attachment in such a simple, beautiful way. And I've been working with that one through this whole time that we've had. It's ongoing, even when it's behind us. Is it really behind us? Because there's just so much expansion and change that's happened with all of this going on, and I'm okay with what happens, and just stripping that down to the basic of what it is I'm okay, period. It's simple, but it's profound, and I love that mantra. Thank you so much for sharing that with
Oh, of
us.
course, my pleasure. I'm glad I could help with that at all.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we're almost at the end of our interview, but I have some rapid fire questions if you're ready for them.
Yes, always.
So the way this works is that you can choose one of the 2 options that I'll present you with, or I always encourage creativity. So if you have a completely different answer, that is also valid. And if you don't like either of the answers and you don't have any answer that you think is better, you can say neither and none of them. And, they can be dead to you and it's completely fine. So let's start it out with new moons or full moons.
Ooh, full moons.
Full moons. How about Sunday or Saturday?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, how about candles or essential oils?
Candles.
Mm, love that fire. Tarot cards or oracle decks?
Oof. I'm gonna say Oracle decks just because there's more freedom with the art, and I get to look at more shiny things.
So true. Do you have a favorite oracle deck?
My favorite is from 𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗀. It's called the Yogi Path, and it's a tarot deck or an oracle deck, which is all about the 8 limbs of yoga and the chakras and things like that. It's got all the yoga deities in there. It's very beautiful.
What about, are you a morning person or a night owl?
mm, I'm gonna say night owl because it takes me a bit more to get up and go in the morning. I need that hour to just drink my coffee and write in my journal.
Love that. How about read a book or listen to a podcast?
I'm a book girl. I've always been a book girl.
So good. Phone calls or text messages?
I like text messages. I think the only people I talk on with the phone with are my mom and my grandma.
Awesome. How about crystal gems or crystal balls?
Ooh, I'm gonna say balls because I've never had a crystal ball, but I would love one.
I think you need one. I think that would be an awesome new form of divination for you.
Yes.
How about coffee or tea?
Coffee. I was like, I don't even know what the second option is. It's coffee over everything. Maybe besides my dogs. If it was between coffee and my dogs, I still might think about it a little bit. No, just kidding. Coffee for sure.
Okay, I have this fun one that I have only asked one other person because I always forget to ask it and I never include it in my notes. But Nicolas Cage or Nickelback?
Oh my god. Um I'm gonna say Nick Jonas, just
There we
because
go.
I don't know. I don't even care for the Jonas Brothers at all. But I lived in New Orleans for a long time, and Nicolas Cage is a kind of a running joke with us because he used to live there, and he has this terribly gaudy, ornate, pyramid-shaped grave site for himself already built in one of the graveyards there in New Orleans, and he's pretty infamous in the Big Easy for no good reasons.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I had no idea, and I love that connection. And I also feel like I'm going to call him Nicholas Pyramid from now on.
Yeah, there's a lot. He's definitely made a name for himself in the city.
How weird. The more you know. Yeah, I love that question because most people are not on board with either. So it's just a great question to ask people. It's so great.
But I would be lying, honestly, if I said I didn't know like all the words to at least 2 Nickelback songs, though. So
Never made it as a wise man. Yeah. Yeah. We can go down that rabbit hole. I know way too many of the lyrics of Nickelback. I grew up on Nickelback and Nicolas Cage because my mom is like a hardcore fan of Nicolas Cage. Like she thought Ghost Rider was a good movie.
Oh my God.
I love you, Mom, if you're listening, but that movie was not that good. Let's be real. It was hilarious, but like in all the wrong ways. Like it was not supposed to be that funny. Or maybe it was. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, have you seen those SNL sketches where Andy Samberg plays Nicolas Cage? It's pretty funny. He does a really great job.
Oh my gosh, I haven't, but I desperately need to. Like I'm looking this up tonight.
They give him like a 5 head and he goes on Weekend Update and he just like grills other actors. Like usually they'll have the real actor like Bradley Cooper or something on there, and then it's Andy Samberg pretending to be Nicolas Cage, like interrogating these actors. I don't know. Yeah, you should look it up.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that. So this is the Soulful of It podcast. So I've got to ask you, what are you soulful of right now?
Potential. Yes, I feel that.
So much potential. I love that. What an awesome answer. So I know that folks are going to love this episode. They're going to love you and they're going to want to find you. So where can folks find you and connect with you? And do you have anything going on that everybody should know about?
Yes, I hope so. I hope you enjoy it. And if you've made it all the way to the end here, thank you so much. I'm so happy. Thank you, Kari, again for having me. I'm mostly hanging out on Instagram at The Local Mystic, and I lead guided meditations there on live every Monday. Or you can come over to my website, thelocalmystic.com. I have a mystic membership in there where we have all of our full and new moon circles. There's my whole yoga library where I film my classes all over the country as we travel around. And also we have lots of really awesome guest workshops and meditations in there. So yeah, any of that, we're more than welcome to have you with open arms. We love all the woo-woo. We love all of the new age, and we really like Taylor Swift in there too. A lot of us are big Taylor Swift fans in there too. That part's not necessary, but if you are also, that's a bonus.
What a great bonus. Well, I'm just going to echo what you said for our listeners. Definitely highly recommend connecting with 𝗧𝗍𝗯, following her on Instagram at The Local Mystic. Her website is thelocalmystic.com, and her Mystic membership is live. It's badass. She has so much amazing content in general, but really taking it to the next level with this membership. Like, so in awe of what you've built and just in awe of who you are, 𝗧𝗍𝗯. And it's just been such a joy to have you sharing some of your magic with us.
Thank you so much, Kari. I had a really good time. This was lovely.
It was an absolute delight to have you on here. And thank you again so much for joining us for this episode.